All right, good evening and welcome to our monthly family Zoom. This month rather, we have financial aid joining us. So we will get to hear from them here in just a few minutes. But before that, I do want to just briefly go over some information from the Office of New Student and Family Programs. So to get us started, just want to say who we are. So first, my name is Brandon Dunford, and I serve as coordinator of New Student and Family Programs here at Georgia Southern. And on behalf of our office, we are really excited that you're joining us for this session, either live or through the recording. We do want to just make you aware of some of the resources that we have for you as a family member and supporter of one of your current students here at the university. So some of the things that we offer include ongoing family communication and support. So we do have monthly newsletters that go out, as well as sharing all of the president's communications with our supporters. So you can join into that listserv on this page I'm going to show next. We have monthly events with campus partners. So these monthly family Zooms are our main event in that regard. So you've joined this one, so definitely feel free to check out some of our others that we'll be offering. We have at least one other one live right now, and we'll be putting at least one or two more up here in the coming days and weeks. So be on the lookout for those as well. We have a lot of social media. We're especially active on Facebook. We have family weekends, both in the fall and spring. So in the fall, we're in Statesboro. It's normally associated with one of our football games. So a lot of fun there. And in the spring, we head down to Savannah. So we are gearing up to head down to Savannah here in just a few short weeks, it feels like. So registration is now open for that event. So you can go ahead and register, purchase your ticket to join us down in Savannah here in just a few short weeks. We also have the Parent and Family Association. So if you're not a member of that already, highly recommend checking that out. It's got a lot of great benefits with it. So I highly recommend looking into that and considering joining the PFA. So how do you find all of these resources once you get off this call? So you can look at the Georgia Southern University website, and at the very top, you'll see a link that says Parent and Families. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to this page shown here at the bottom. It'll have Parent and Family Programs listed at the top. You can click on Meet Our Team to meet me again, as well as the other members of my team. You can join that family programs listserv, like I mentioned, and get those monthly family emails, as well as communications that originally go out from the president to students. And you can also click our family events link to register for any of our events that are coming up, such as future monthly family Zooms or our family weekend events. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and we're going to pass things over to Blake Mercer from the Office of Financial Aid. And he's going to take things away and go over some financial aid information for everyone this afternoon. And then we'll have some time at the end for any questions that you might have to answer some of those live.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about financial aid, and then there will be a question and answer section afterwards. I do want to apologize. I actually live in the zoo, so you might hear a dog bark here or there. He is a puppy, so he's still learning. So I do apologize in advance, just in case that happens. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Just let me share my screen with you guys right quick. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties myself. I'm clicking the wrong thing. Apologize. All right, so this is a guide to understanding financial aid. Okay, so I want to start off with what is the cost of attendance. You might see this as COA. Sometimes you will hear it referred to as a budget. So the cost of attendance is going to include tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, transportation, and personal expenses. Now, the only thing I wanted you to keep in mind is we do this for students living on campus and off campus. So we have an estimate for students that are going to be living off campus. So that includes their room and board, those books and supplies for them, their transportation. Now, certain students that are what we call that travel, they actually have a different budget. So, but I'm dealing right now with more of your standard students and how they actually do everything. Now, cost of attendance will vary between colleges. If you know you have a student that's at Georgia Southern versus one that's, say, at UGA, you'll notice that the cost of attendance for that is going to be a little bit different. Another question that we get asked is, what is the expected family contribution, also known as the EFC? So essentially, this comes from completing the FAFSA. You get this number, and it's basically an amount that a family can reasonably be expected to contribute. Now, the thing about it that's different, say, from cost of attendance is that it doesn't change regardless of college because it's done by the information that you input into the FAFSA. There are two components of this, which is the parent contribution and also the student contribution. The EFC is done by calculation from the federal application form, the FAFSA, and a formula that's been made. I've been told it's pages long. I've never actually had the opportunity to see the long equation to how they actually equate everything in to get that EFC number. I would like to see it one day. Maybe that'll be my goal of 2022. So to get financial need, you have to have a cost of attendance minus that expected family contribution, and that's how you get that financial need. So say your cost of attendance was around, let's say, $23,495. And then you had an expected family contribution of, say, let's just say, to make it really easy, $20,000. That means the financial need would be that leftover $3,495. So, the lower your EFC, which is your expected family contribution, the more financial need you'll see you having. So say you're looking at your student's account and you're like, okay, well, I see that my student only qualified for unsubsidized loan. That's probably because you have a larger expected family contribution. You would notice the lower the EFC, that's when you start seeing subsidized loans and the Pell Grant, the lower the EFC. So all of this information is really gathered by doing the FAFSA. So the information is used to calculate the expected family contribution. And if you guys haven't already done your FAFSA for the 22-23 year, I highly encourage you to do it now. It's available each October 1st. I say wait, let October 1st pass, because usually there's so many people, there's a lot of FAFSA completion events, and sometimes there's some bugs. I would say really go onto it about the 3rd and then do it, because you're going to use the prior year tax information. So if you see for the 22-23 FAFSA, we're asking for the 2020 tax information. Now, I know 2020 was a wild year and there was a lot of things that happened. I will go over a few things there in case something in your situation has changed. So parent information that needs to be included on the FAFSA. A lot of questions that we get that come into the office is, I'm unsure of who to use on my FAFSA. A student may ask, a parent could call and ask. So essentially, if the parents are living together and they're married, well, actually, regardless of marital status, they have to be included in the combined financial information. This also is also the same for same-sex partners as well. So where it gets a little different is if parents are divorced or separated, a lot of people are like, well, I include this, the student on my taxes versus my ex-husband who doesn't include them on theirs. Or they'll say, or another example will be like, well, I have health insurance on them versus them having health insurance on them. So those are kind of iffy. I mean, if you want to include that, that's fine. But really the rule that we kind of go by is if it's who the student lives with more in the past 12 months. So that's really it for the most part. And so if you are remarried, you have to include your new spouse's information, not your old spouse, like your ex-spouse. You would actually include, we always say, the step parent. So, and just in case some of you are grandparents or foster parents or legal guardians, you are not considered parents on the form for FAFSA unless you legally adopted your student. Another thing that I like to talk about too is the IRS data retrieval tool. It's a simple tool from the IRS. If any of you can remember, you can remember the paper FAFSA, how great that was to fill out. And then you remember when it finally went to online, then it's like, please input this from line 7, line 16 minus line 45, a lot of stuff like that. Well, the IRS data retrieval tool actually eliminates all of that for you. So what you actually do is you'll link over to the IRS website, you'll input your information. It's usually your name, your filing status, the address you used on so for example, for the 22-23 year, you would use your 20 tax return. So it would be the address you put there, and usually it'll link it right over. Sometimes there are little glitches. So for example, if you are married, but you file separately, you will have to input that information in the FAFSA manually. One other than the fact that when you transfer it over, you don't see any numbers. You don't have to input any numbers other than those standard questions. If you've done it before, it's got what's in your banking account, what are your investments, those kind of things. And then you will, if you are married and you're filing joint, you will have to actually split the income from parent 1, parent 2. So make sure you keep your W-2s on file just so you can pull those for reference. Now the IRS data retrieval tool will not work for families who don't have a social security number. And as I said earlier, parents that are married but are filing separately. One last thing about this is it actually reduces documents that we may have to request from you guys. By using the data retrieval tool, we know that comes straight from the IRS, so we can use those numbers and we don't have to necessarily ask for 1040s or tax return transcripts. Now, there could be a possibility if you are selected for verification that we do ask for additional tax documents, but usually this eliminates that and can be a preventative tool as well. So a lot of errors that we do find on the FAFSA are social security numbers have been entered wrong. Sometimes this is easy as just flipping those 2 middle ones. Divorced or remarried parent information. Sometimes that gets a little sticky for people because they're like, I'm not sure what to put on here. Income earned by parents or step parents, untaxed income, US paid income taxes, household size, number of students in college or house members in college, real estate and investment net worth. And some people are just unsure of what assets to include as well. So what happens after you file is your student will get a summary of their application, which is called the SAR, or better known as the student aid report. They usually get that back, if you can remember, I would say up to maybe less than 10 years ago and before. Once you would get your SAR, it would come in the mail and it would be a yellow piece of paper and it would have the information that you input on it. Well, now students can actually access that through their FSA ID at FAFSA.gov or studentaid.gov. If students need more information, so say, for example, I've mentioned that verification word. So say your student is selected for verification, there might be some other documents that we need. So make sure that you are on FERPA if you're not. So you could call just in case the student's being a little unclear with you. We want to make sure we can get that information correct, because 9 times out of 10, it is the parent information that we need. So just I implore you to make sure you're on FERPA. So say, for example, you're not selected for verification, then just really be on the lookout for award notifications. We usually don't start the awarding process for the next school year until usually December, early January. And what we tend to do is start with the incoming freshmen first, because a lot of them have to, the drill. You're planning, you're trying to decide what school you're going to go to. So once we can get that out there to them, it makes it a little easier. Plus, when your student's in school, they could be having something which is called a grade level advance, which means they can move up in a class, so they could be eligible for something. They also need to be re-checked for Hope or Zell Miller if they're an in-state student. So there are a couple of other little things that we like to look at. And then usually what we start working on late in the spring semester, early into summer, so we start awarding for the upcoming year. So if you remember earlier, I said 2020 was a wild year. We all experienced crazy things. So say, for example, you were someone that was affected by your job, changed with your employment status. There are some things that happen. There is something that you can do if you feel like your EFC is too high. We can reevaluate it. It's called a EFC appeal. Once you complete the 22-23 FAFSA, you give it a few, once we have to receive it, and as long as you're not selected for verification, you can immediately start that application process. So really what we like to ask is if there's been like a change in employment status, if there's unusual medical expenses that have not been covered by your insurance, or there's a change in marital status from the time of completion of the FAFSA. We just need you to fill out that appeal form, which will basically have like a written letter of explanation or documentation. It also, we then review that information, and then we then appeal that. We then take that and put in the new formulas with everything that you gave us, and then we could see if that adjusts your EFC and that makes your student more eligible for additional aid. Now, just keep in mind that all of the decisions are final and they cannot be appealed by the U.S. Department of Education. Now, I just have a few little tips for filing if you haven't already filed. Our school code is 001572. Please make sure that you and your student enter your name as it appears on your Social Security card. Again, for the 22-23 FAFSA, we are using the 2020 tax information. If you can, please use the IRS data retrieval. Make sure you read carefully of who should be included in the household, and who should be the parent, who should be parent number one, who should be parent number two. Typically, it varies. It doesn't matter, especially if the parents are married. I would say if you are remarried, to make your to have your primary parent one be the biological parent of that student, and then parent two be the spouse. It just makes it a little easier, especially for you. Like I said earlier, 30% of applicants are selected for verification. If that does happen, we will alert you, and you'll be required to submit other documents before we can actually get you awarding. Just a little quick checklist, just 5 things. If you haven't already done it, you can go to FAFSA.gov and log in using your FSA ID, or you can also go to studentaid.gov and log in and complete your FAFSA through there. Enter your personal information, enter your financial information. This is, of course, you can choose up to 10 schools, but of course we want you guys to stay here. So again, you want to put our school code in, which is 001572. And once you think you're finished, just double check everything and then submit it. And then usually within a few weeks, we'll get it to our school. But again, especially with returning students, we wait a little longer to process those just to get grades in from the spring typically, and just to make sure that they're still going to be here and things like that. So after you've gone through all of that, you've done your FAFSA stuff, what is your student actually eligible for? Well, depending on your estimated family contribution, they could be eligible for certain grants. One, for example, is the Pell Grant. It ranges from $6,495 a year to $672 a year. So really based on that EFC, it's going to depend on how much your student is eligible for. Now, these numbers right here are based on our current school year. And as you see how it is split, excuse me, with the most being 3,248 and the lowest being 330 per semester. There is also the SEOG grant. It's the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. This is more of a first come, first serve grant. We're only given a certain allotted amount of these funds. So the earlier you have your FAFSA in and the lower your EFC, you're eligible. You could be eligible for the $600 grant. Now keep in mind it is $600 for the year, so it is split between fall and spring. Now, of course, let's talk about the fun stuff, which is student loans. If your student has to take out student loans, they are eligible for a certain amount based on their classification. As you can see here listed on the screen, it says dependent students are as freshmen are eligible for $5,500. Please keep in mind that that is split per semester. So you're looking at around $2,750 each semester that is split. Now, I know that you've heard me talk about EFC, so you're like, okay, well, will there be different totals for loans? Depending on the EFC, students could get at least the max they could get in subsidized as a freshman is $3,500, and then the rest would be $2,000 in unsubsidized. And as you notice, as your student moves up in class, they're eligible for more money. As a sophomore, it goes up to 65, which is split again per semester, and junior, senior levels are also split. As an undergraduate student, students are only allotted to take up to $31,000 for their college career unless special circumstances have happened. But typically at that point, you guys wouldn't be involved, or say that there is a denied Parent Plus loan. Then for that matter, if the Parent Plus loan you take out for your student to offset the cost for them, if it is denied, they're eligible for more unsubsidized loans. So just keep in mind that unsubsidized loans do start accruing interest as soon as the student takes out the loan, but they're not required to pay those back until 6 months after they graduate. Now, something that you guys probably already know, but I like to remind you, is that all students, before they can even have a loan, they have to complete entrance loan counseling and sign a master promissory note. Once they do that, that lasts for the duration usually of their time here at Georgia Southern. But before they even do that, they have to go online and accept their loan. So we have three different things that are there for them before they can even take out a loan that they have to do. As I said earlier, all amounts are broken out between semesters, and it's based on need qualifications to if your student's going to qualify for any grants or subsidized loans. Excuse me. Next, I want to talk about some of our in-state scholarships. For example, the Hope Scholarship. So most of you know that Hope's going to cover about 90% of that standard tuition rate. So 1 hour of classes at Georgia Southern costs $182.13 per credit hour. And of that $182.13, Hope covers $167 of that. As you know, when they graduate from high school, they had to have at least a 3.0 to receive the Hope Scholarship. While they're in college, they must maintain a 3.0. And something that a lot of people don't know, or they forget, it seems like, is Hope will pay for 127 attempted hours. Now, this doesn't include any dual enrollment that they took. It starts as soon as basically any college they took after they graduated high school. Any classes that they withdraw from will count for those attempted hours. So a lot of students will get to the very end and they're like, I still have a semester to go, but my Hope's only paying like $167. And we're like, we understand that you've got 11 hours left of classes, or 12 hours, excuse me, and it's Hope's only paying for one, but that's just because you withdrew from a few classes before. There is a limit to Hope. There also is a checkpoint for Hope. We always check at the end of every 30, 60, and 90 attempted hours, but we also check at the end of every spring. So if a student is falling below at the end of spring, they do have the chance of losing their Hope Scholarship. Now, if they do lose it, they can regain it at one of those checkpoints, which would be 30, 60, or 90. We do not do a checkpoint at the end of every spring, only every 30, 60, or 90. And as I said before, any Excel Move On Ready, aka dual enrollment credits, do not count towards Hope hours. Now, the other state scholarship that I was going to talk about was Zell Miller. Now, Zell Miller is going to cover 100% of that tuition cost. So when I said that $182.13, it covers $182.13 per credit hour. Now, just keep in mind that with Hope and Zell Miller, it doesn't cover fees or room and board or anything like that. It's straight tuition. So of course, if your students graduated with a 3.7 GPA and had either a 1200 or a 1200 on the SAT or a 26 on the ACT, they would have qualified for Zell Miller. While they're in college, they have to maintain at least a 3.3 GPA to keep it. And essentially everything else is the same when it comes to Zell Miller and Hope, other than those requirements and what it pays. All right, that's everything that I have so far. I don't mind opening it up and actually having, if you guys have any questions, and we can talk about it and go from there.
Thank you. We appreciate it, Blake. If you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead and submit those through the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and then we can field those. Please note, though, that these need to be questions that are okay to ask in front of the group. So please do not include any information that is student-specific or circumstance-specific. So don't include your student's Eagle ID or their name or anything of that sort, because that information is considered private and we can't share that in this public setting. But if you do have any general questions, please feel free to submit those in the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. I'm also going to go ahead and turn the chat feature back on so you can chat questions to us as well. We'll have both of those up. We'll give you all a few seconds to type any questions you might have in before we assume that there are none. Again, any questions related to financial aid, we can definitely try to field those right now and get your questions answered while you're here. All right, so first question, I wasn't able to see the PowerPoint. Will it be posted? So the PowerPoint itself won't necessarily be posted, but what we will do is we will take the recording and we'll upload it into YouTube and have that linked on the Family Programs website. So if you reference back, I would say give us about a week or so. We're a bit busy right now, but if you give us a week to get it uploaded and posted to our website, you should be able to reference that PowerPoint through that. Any other final questions? Give it a few more seconds in case someone's typing out one. All right, well, seeing no questions come in, we are going to go ahead and wrap up for this evening and let you all get back to the rest of your night. Again, please feel free to reach out to financial aid or even enrollment services if you have any follow-up questions. Also, feel free to reach out to us in New Student Family Programs. We would be happy to help point you in the right direction, make connections for you, or answer any questions you have related to anything that we do on our end, as discussed at the beginning of the presentation. Again, you can find our information on the Georgia Southern website. At the very top of the screen, you'll see Parent and Families. You can just click on that, and that'll get you to our page on the website. And then you can find financial aid information online pretty easily as well. If you have any questions for them, or if you're not sure where to start, again, enrollment services is a great area to ask that initial question, and they can help point you in the right direction if you're just not sure who might be the best person to speak with, related to all things related to your bill, financial aid, paying for college, all of those sorts of items. So with that, we are going to go ahead and close out this session. I want to thank you all again for joining us tonight, and thank those of you who are watching post live session for joining us as well. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close out this presentation now.